back, nerds. We got a request to talk about the Heralds of Galactus, and with all the excitement surrounding Fantastic Four First Steps, how could we refuse? So let's soar across the galaxy together and get into the 616 Heralds of Galactus. 10. The Fallen One. He was a herald to not only Galactus, but Thanos too. He was Galactus's very first herald, so he's kind of like the prototype, which means he's a little bit different than all the other heralds. Instead of being energized with the power cosmic, he got dark energy, the binding halo by which galaxies are made solvent, or whatever that means. Point is he was very powerful. He was so cruel that Galactus actually felt he had to imprison him though. The Fallen One would chase Galactus throughout the universe until Thanos got his hands on him and forced him to be his herald instead. The Fallen One did eventually fall, and his power was transferred to an urn. 9. Nova, but not the Nova Core Nova. This is Frankie Ray. She had fire abilities similar to the Human Torch, just on a slightly lower level. Not for long though, because she eventually became a herald for Galactus and everything was dialed up to 11. This benefited her and Galactus. Galactus had just experienced a major betrayal from a past herald, was in the market for a new one, and Frankie was eager to explore. Eventually, it took a toll on her mental health and she began hiding inhabited planets, leading to her being discharged as a herald. 8. Stardust. I'm obsessed with Stardust. They were originally a shapeless being called an ethereal, transforming into Stardust. Their body is now composed of pure cosmic energy that can save them from almost anything. They did two things that no herald has done before, at least up until that point. 1. Given up their own race to Galactus, and 2. Fell in love with Galactus. Stardust was also able to escape from a black hole that they did open, but it is still pretty cool nonetheless. 9. Shalabal. Shalabal is having a moment in the sun right now thanks to Fantastic Four First Steps, and rightfully so because she was so cool in the movie. The scenes of her surfing in space? Unmatched. Anyways, she is quite powerful of course. In the film, we saw her escape from a black hole, but in the comics, she was able to restore an entire ecosystem with just a touch, and later she was able to wield a fusion of magic and tech called the Illuminatrix. She also has the power to cause a bunch of fans to just lose their minds simply by existing. 6. Connor Sims. Sims was Galactus's first herald of life. After the World Devourer was set free of his curse and became the Life-Bringer, he encountered Connor Sims. Sims was a human turned unstable antimatter villain, Anti-Man. He sought to destroy the world as revenge for the average person's hateful intolerance. However, he was eventually redeemed and called upon by Galactus to help free eternity. The Sentry was apparently impressed by his powers, which is saying something considering everything that the Sentry has going on, but in the end, Sims ended up sacrificing himself to save the day. 5. The Human Torch. Johnny Storm was once a Galactus herald, and he was so powerful that he reduced Galactus back to his human form. After a major battle on Earth, Galactus claimed Johnny as his new herald, but Johnny didn't really want the gig and decided to spend his time and use his powers to analyze Galactus to see how to defeat the Devourer. With the help of his team and some friends, Johnny was able to successfully reduce Galactus back to his humanoid form. Eventually, Johnny's power cosmic abilities faded and things went back to how they were before. 4. Airwalker. This herald could easily be Galactus's favorite, and I say that because when the original Airwalker was eliminated, Galactus made a perfect robot replica of him. Sure, Airwalker wasn't as intelligent or well known as some of the other heralds, but he had a love of space and actually wanted to hear all of Galactus's stories about the universe. And for a being that's been around for like billions of years like Galactus has, it must feel good to have someone actually care to hear about your adventures no matter how gruesome. 3. The Herald of Thunder, Thor. Just when you thought Thor couldn't get any cooler or more powerful, he does. In order to fight off a new villain, the Black Winter, Galactus was told by the Black Winter that Thor would be his undoing. And you keep your friends close but your enemies closer. To keep an eye on Thor, he made him his new Herald of Thunder. The pair had to work together to defeat this Black Winter by having Galactus eat 5 particular planets, and Thor working to evacuate those planets in time. Thor led the Devourer to the planets, but it was revealed that Galactus was actually a herald of the evil himself and just didn't want to be anymore. Thor, angry, stripped the space god of his new power and used him as an explosive to defeat this new enemy. 2. Norrinrad. Of course the Silver Surfer is here. Norrinrad is definitely the most famous Galactus Herald, believed to be one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He often holds back his power, and with the right energy boost, it's estimated that he could single-handedly destroy entire galaxies. As his regular self, he was very intelligent, which often does help him in his herald duties. It's hard to beat the Silver Surfer, but he isn't number 1. Morg is, and that is because Morg is absolutely ruthless and doesn't have the weakness bonus that the Silver Surfer has compassion. Norrin Radd has shown a few times that he doesn't love his line of work. However, Morg is all in. Like, this is his dream job. Unlimited power, and he gets to cause the suffering of billions. That's everything he wants and more. Now, there was another Herald like that named Terrax that didn't make this list, so sorry to him, but unlike Terrax, Morg was loyal to Galactus. It took 5 former Heralds to take Morg down, but it didn't matter in the end because Galactus just resurrected him. He's cheated death quite a few times until recently when the Phoenix came by and encased him in metal.
Number 10. Darwin. As we discussed in part 1, the term Omega actually comes from Marvel's world of superheroes, and specifically mutant kind, where the classification is used to denote a being who exhibits the utmost capabilities and control when it comes to their power set, making them the most powerful being with said power set. For the purpose of this list, however, we'll be using the term to simply talk about heroes who are so overpowered that they are considered god tier or beyond Omega, if you will. Darwin actually happens to be a mutant, and though on my part 1 I kind of shied away from mentioning Marvel's mutants on that list because we had already discussed them on their own Beyond Omega list, someone that wasn't on that list and hasn't officially been classified as Omega or Beyond, or at least I don't think he has yet, but that I think probably should be considered such, is Darwin. Darwin's mutant power allows him to adapt and evolve his body and power sets as necessary for situations as they arise, and he's proven in the past just how powerful and deadly he could be. We also learned how valued the Children of the Vault considered his power set to be when they set out to capture him so that they could incorporate his powers into their own evolution, when Darwin was sent on a mission with fellow mutants, Synch and Wolverine, aka Laura Kinney, inside the Vault. You know your powers are crazy when the Children of the Vault are like, we need that, we gotta mix that up in our thing. We want to be able to have that power. Number 9. Nova. The Nova we're talking about here is Richard Rider. Rich was given the powers of the Nova Force by one of the last surviving members of the Nova Corps, who was forced to pass his powers on as he was severely wounded and dying. Stumbling upon Richard Rider on Earth and hoping that the human who received the powers would carry on his mission and use them well and wisely. I mean, if you gotta give powers, you gotta give powers, you just gotta cross your fingers and hope. As Nova, Richard Rider is insanely powerful and also gains access to a wealth of information being directly linked to the Xandarian world mind, which grants him all the knowledge that Xandarian culture has amassed over the years. The Xandarian world mind can also take control of Nova as needed, and protects him against mental attacks. Although he also kinda needs it to keep himself stable, because without it, the sheer power of the Nova Force will overwhelm his mind and body. So it's like a blessing, and it's also kind of like a weakness. Number 8. Captain Atom. Captain Atom hails from the DC universe, and is kind of similar to Nova in terms of the idea and look of his character. His power set is based in nuclear power and quantum physics. His origin story is somewhat similar to Dr. Manhattan's of Watchmen, at least in the New 52 continuity. However, instead of being altered by a tragic accident there, he volunteered for an experiment which ended up going kinda wrong, resulting in him being seemingly atomized. Later on, he would reappear as an energy-based life form though. Yay! And then obviously, superpowers. His powers allow him to alter reality, create force fields, and leave him superhumanly powered when it comes to strength, speed, and durability, making him pretty much invulnerable as well. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, you can also check us out over on Facebook, where we have tons of goodies coming your way, and you know, if you follow us there, hopefully we'll have some more cool stuff coming your way soon, because there's definitely lots of cool projects I'd love to do. Can't talk about them, but check it out. There'll be more stuff soon. Number 7. Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer was gifted with one of the greatest powers in the Marvel Universe, that of the power cosmic. He's known for often being the Herald of Galactus, at least initially, that was his claim to fame, and that was how he was granted his power as well. Previous to that, Norrin Radd was simply a man who sacrificed his own life to save his planet and the lives of those he loved, including his beloved. He ended up pledging himself to Galactus so that Galactus would spare his planet and became his herald, forgetting his previous life as he was imbued with the power cosmic and taking up the mantle of Silver Surfer. In the future, seen in Thanos Wins, not only does Silver Surfer have the power cosmic, but he also has the black matter powers of the Fallen One, taking up the mantle in the future as he makes his final stand against King Thanos, also wielding Thor's hammer Mjolnir as well, being considered worthy enough to wield said hammer. He does not succeed in beating King Thanos, unfortunately, but this version of the character is still super OP. If I was King Thanos, I wouldn't want to face that version of the Fallen One. I'd be like, no, not gonna do that. Number 6, Superman. Superman, especially before his power set settled, was a pretty crazy powerful guy. Back in the old days, Superman's powers were actually whatever the story called for them to be. So basically, he could do it all. But even now that his power set is more concrete in modern storytelling, more established, he's still known for being one of the most powerful heroes around. Not only is he invulnerable with super strength, but he's also super fast, and super smart as a result. One power I feel like people always overlook is his speed, and his capacity to learn things extremely quickly as a result. It's like the best speed reader ever. While Superman might not be as fast as the fastest of the speedsters in the DC universe, the fact that he has this power combined with all of his other ones makes him insanely well-rounded and unstoppable when he needs to be. There's also an alternate version of Superman, All-Star Superman, who gets his powers boosted to an insanely high level but becomes so powerful that his powers are basically killing him. However, once he ends up merging with, fixing, and in essence living on the sun, this surprisingly prolongs his life and also allows him to remain super powered. Unfortunately, in that last year before he left the Earth, he was like, I'm gonna do a lot of cool stuff so that I leave you guys in a good spot, because I'm gonna die. But then he didn't die, so it's all good. Number 5, Molecule Man. Molecule Man started out being a major villain, but later on, much later on I guess, before he seemingly dies, he redeems himself by joining forces with the Future Foundation / Fantastic Four in an effort to return the Marvel multiverse to normal by reconstructing it. While aiding Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and his family in this quest, Molecule Man was unfortunately killed. However, it should be noted that Molecule Man kind of exists across the multiverse, and parts of him were actually used to like tether said universes that were reconstructed. So in a way, he could still be alive. He kind of was still potentially able to come back, but then they gathered his pieces and they got stolen, so I don't know if we'll ever see Molecule Man again, but I hope so, because I'd love to see him more in a hero role. Molecule Man is Owen Reese, whose powers allow him to manipulate matter at a molecular level and warp reality. He has at times placed mental blocks in his own mind to prevent himself from using his powers to alter living life forms. He seems to go back and forth when it comes to him being able to alter living organic material as a result. And while he is really powerful when it comes to reality warping, he also is still quite squishy, which is why he's ranking lower. And also, you know, he was a villain for a long time. I acknowledge, but I'm just here to see Molecule Man be a hero, friends. I'm just here for it. Let me know if you also want to see Molecule Man come back and be a good guy. Number 4, Raven. Raven is a hero that we don't normally hype up when we're talking about like the most powerful ones out there. And yet, she really is. Although she struggles sometimes with her darker side, when she can keep that in check, Raven is actually one of the most powerful magic users in the world of DC. That's right, I said it. And that's pretty impressive considering how many heavy hitters there are in that realm. In the magical realm. What also makes Raven so powerful is her dark heritage, so being able to harness that energy while kind of keeping it in check can make her extremely powerful. Of course, there is always the risk that Raven will turn dark, but it's important to remember that she is a hero first, and while this has happened to her before, she always ends up coming back to the side of good in the end, because ultimately Raven defines who she is and wants to be, as opposed to allowing her heritage to define her. I also always think of that future Raven from Teen Titans Go, who becomes the goddess of the universe after she defeats her father Trigon. She's really powerful there. Also, I know people are going to be like, wow man, a Teen Titans Go? Really? Is that where we're going? I like Teen Titans Go, guys. Sorry, I said it. I like it. It's funny. It's ridiculous. Number 3, Adam Eve. Adam Eve is probably one of the most powerful superheroes that I've fallen head over heels in love with most recently. She hails from Image Comics, specifically Invincible and its comic book universe, and now also its animated universe. She is the main love interest and partner in romance and business to the main character of the Invincible series, Mark Grayson, aka superhero Invincible. But she's also so much more than that. Adam Eve is Samantha Eve Wilkins, a powerhouse in her own right, who I might argue is actually more powerful in a lot of ways than even Mark himself, who is pretty off the charts powerful himself. Adam Eve can manipulate matter on a molecular level, effectively allowing her to alter reality, and what's more, she doesn't use her powers to create like unlimited wealth or anything selfish, but instead at one point actually takes a break from superheroing to travel the world and help those who actually need her help in third world countries and could benefit from her powers and her abilities. Basically, she's being a real world superhero. You know what I mean? She still got superpowers, but you know, she's using them to just do good things on the ground. We also learn much later in the Invincible series that she is basically immortal and cannot die. Kind of spoilers, but also Invincible's been out for a long time, friends, so if you haven't read it, sorry, you should do it. You should go read it. Go check it out. Number 2, Jean Grey. As I said before, I tried to stay away from mutants on part 1 of this list because I felt that they had been mentioned a ton when it came to the whole Omega and beyond Omega categorizations. However, if we're just talking about superheroes who are beyond OP when it comes to beyond Omega, then at some point I kinda do need to talk about Jean. And so here she is on our part 2. Jean isn't just a powerhouse because she's tied to the Phoenix Force either. While she has been the Phoenix multiple times, she also is powerful enough just standing on her own. In fact, I think Jean is so powerful that she often holds back because she knows just how dangerous fully letting go would be. She's seen the darkness in herself and what a threat it can be if she taps into that. Jean is often depicted as being very much in control of her powers in modern comics because I think over the years she has learned how important that is with someone who is just as much of a powerhouse as she is. Like if Jean wanted to, she could probably do a lot of crazy stuff. But she's like, I probably shouldn't do that because it would be a bad idea. Number 1, Dr. Manhattan. I mentioned Dr. Manhattan on part 1 of my list, but really only in passing. He was mentioned in another point, but he wasn't the main point of that point. I figured I couldn't do a Beyond Omega superhero list without mentioning him, but I didn't really want to give him a spot on that part 1 because at the end of the day, he gets hyped a lot. We talk about him a lot on this channel. That being said, he does deserve it. So as soon as I heard that we were doing a part 2 for this list, I was like, okay, I gotta give him a spot on this one. I can't deny him that. And unsurprisingly, here he is all the way at the top because yeah, Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan can basically warp reality as he sees fit. In essence, he is one of the major causes of the creation of the New 52, at least as far as reasoning goes within canon and continuity. Dr. Manhattan might be a little too ambivalent for some to consider him a hero, but overall I'd say he is a force for good. He just usually doesn't get involved because he's so OP, and this means that he sees other beings and their issues as generally being kind of beneath him. Yeah, not a very typical hero mentality or attitude, but hey, Dr. Manhattan also isn't your typical hero, being that he originated from Alan Moore's Watchmen, which itself is its own fantastic universe that examines heroes under a different perspective, which I think we all could use a little bit more of when we're reading comics. Number 10, Iron God. So what does Beyond Omega mean in regards to this list? Well, Omega is typically a term reserved for Marvel's mutants, and it's used to classify the awesome level of their powers. To be Omega in a mutant sense means that you are basically the most powerful mutant within that specific power set and type. Here we're kind of using that term more to discuss just some of the most unstoppable god tier level heroes and beyond who could do just about anything. Like Tony Stark, surprisingly. That's right, even Tony Stark got a god tier power up when he became Iron God. Who is Iron God? It's basically Iron Man imbued with the power cosmic. Using his newfound power, Tony, who is also struggling with his longtime god complex, decided to use his newfound power to make all of NYC as smart as he was. Except for Reed Richards, who believed he was actually made somewhat less intelligent due to this change. Typical Reed. He's like, not me though. Tony, I'm definitely smarter than you, so this didn't help me. Number 9, Sentry. Sentry is the greatest hero that Earth forgot. In the Marvel Universe, he is basically like DC Superman, but quite a bit more messed up when it comes to his origins and at times his approach to fighting baddies. In fact, Sentry himself isn't just one of Earth's greatest and most powerful heroes, he's also one of its worst villains, as residing within him is also the persona of the Void. The Void is the reason the whole world basically had to forget that Bob Reynolds was the hero known as the Sentry. In forgetting who the Sentry was, he disappeared, and with him so did his alter ego, the most villainous and deadly Void. Sentry managed to rip Ares in half, he's so powerful and violent. In fact, he ripped a lot of people in half. That's kind of his thing. Although he did also suffer some payback when Null, during the King in Black event, killed him by ripping him in half in kind. what can I say? Karma comes for us all in the end. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it where we talk about some of the most powerful of the most powerful, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Cersei. Cersei is literally one of the most underutilized characters when it comes to Marvel in my mind. Overall, I kinda just think the Eternals deserve some more hype. I mean, Kieran Gillen is doing a fantastic job of hyping them currently, but there were a few years there where they were just dead. Literally, they were dead. Cersei as an Eternal has powers that allow her to not only control every atom of her body, but also allow her to control all matter around her as well. And she's also quite charming, a dangerous combination. At one point she uses her powers to completely disable Iron Man in the current Eternal series while having lunch with Tony Stark. And guess what? Iron Man remains powerless to stop her. It probably helps that he feels safe enough around Cersei to not need to have his guard up when he's going to lunch with her, but still, the effortlessness demonstrated by Cersei here is impressive. While Cersei struggled in the MCU to defeat Tiamat alone, even there her powers proved to be essential to ultimately winning the day, with the help of course of her connection and the other Eternals' connection to the Unimind. The Unimind fixes all I don't got enough power problems. At least I think Cersei and Tony Stark were having lunch in that Eternals issue, by the way. That's Eternals issue number 5, by the way, if you're looking for it. It's lunch or it's brunch. Maybe it's brunch. Does seem like a very Cersei meal to have. Number 7. The Flash. Barry Allen's The Flash was literally so powerful that he was able to alter the entirety of reality when he went back in time to save his mother. In doing so, he also kinda broke reality and it was up to him to set things right, which he inevitably eventually did. He was also the only one powerful enough to defeat the Anti-Monitor's plot to destroy realities using his reality decimating machine. But he seemingly had to give up his life in the process. And unfortunately, this didn't defeat Anti-Monitor in the long run, but he did destroy the machine, and that was pretty challenging in and of itself. Wally West, on the other hand, who is our current Flash, doesn't really have any flashy, pardon my pun, stories quite like those. But this is mainly because Wally's Flash actually tries not to do things that would mess up the timeline in the first place. Sorry, Barry. Which maybe makes him even more powerful. He's also faster, so I think we can consider both these Flashes super overpowered and at god level or beyond when it comes to their Speed Force abilities. Number 6. Binary. Binary is one of Captain Marvel's aka Carol Danvers' alternate forms. As Binary, Carol was basically raw untamed energy, similar to that of a white hole, which is theoretically like the opposite of a black hole cosmically speaking. If you haven't heard about it, check it out. There's some pretty cool theories about white holes online. And to this day, she still taps into some of her binary power every now and then, as needed. The version of her in the MCU that basically looks like she's gone God mode, with glowing eyes, glowing hair, just glowing all over, that is basically the vibe that you get from Binary. And if you're a fan of Carol's Binary days, we have some good news for you. Binary will actually be returning in Kelly Thompson's current Captain Marvel run. It's been revealed that Binary will show up in issue 38 in May 2022. But this new Binary apparently is like a separate entity from Carol and also has a pretty great and subtle new redesign that still pays great tribute to the original and to Carol. So if you want more of this powerhouse character, who might also be spinning off into her own entity, be sure to check that out. I think that's super cool. Every time I hear something about what's going on in the Captain Marvel comic, I'm like, I need to read that. That sounds good. I do like my Captain Marvel comics. Number 5. White Lantern. There have been a lot of powerful Green Lanterns and other lanterns with colors from the emotional spectrum, but one of the most powerful types of lanterns out there is probably the White Lantern. And one of the most powerful White Lanterns that we've seen in comic book continuity has to be Kyle Rayner. White Lanterns in general are rare, as you have to be able to harness and represent all colors of the spectrum, as it is when you combine those that in theory you get that bright white light. White Lantern, you know? It's how light works. Kyle ended up being the most all-around powerful Green Lantern when he proved that he was capable of becoming a White Lantern. He used his powers to save the world, and in the end was also smart and strong enough to give up the powers of the White Lantern, knowing that it was basically too much power to just wield on the daily. And that to me is one of the strongest things you can do. If you have a ton of power, like Wolverine has also done that before, you get so much power and then you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave this here for another time. I don't need it all the time. That's powerful. Number 4, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is definitely one of the most powerful heroes around when it comes to the Marvel Universe. Sure, he did just die, but that's really only because he was fine with dying and knew that if he remained on Earth, it would inevitably mess up a lot of stuff. But he could have returned from death if he'd really wanted to, so just want to put that out there. That's just how powerful he is. In the What If Disney Plus streaming series, we also learned just how terrifying Doctor Strange could be if he put his mind to it when he became obsessed with gaining enough power to bring back his love Christine Palmer from death. He succeeded, but also ended up destroying the world as a result. But also, that's pretty weirdly and quite tragically OP. Number 3, Divinity. Divinity is actually from Valiant Comics instead of being from either DC or Marvel, the two big publishers of the North American comic book world. Remember Bloodshot with Vin Diesel? Bloodshot is also from Valiant Comics. Ho-ho! Divinity himself is Abram Adams, a Russian cosmonaut who was in essence granted godlike powers during a trip to space. He returned to Earth and understanding just how powerful he had actually become, actually only ever interfered when a threat great enough presented itself. That's just how souped up he is. He knows better to get involved with conflicts of a smaller scale because he knows just how much damage he is capable of doing. To me, that's like kind of some Dr. Manhattan vibes. Or well, partial Dr. Manhattan vibes. I feel like Dr. Manhattan also sometimes just gets involved in stuff because he's like, what would happen if I just did that? Interesting. I like it. Or he's like, interesting. I hate it. I'm gonna go to space and just let you guys do your thing now. Bye. Number 2, Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch has literally used her powers to change all of reality, warping it so that we got the reality belonging to House of M. But beyond that, she's also lately seen some redemption in comics when she helped the mutants to access backups of those previously lost to them so that they could resurrect those mutants. This all happened in Trial of Magneto, where it was revealed that Wanda could basically open the door to those mutants and their minds thanks to her connection to them and their psyches because of House of M and M-Day. She goes through a little waiting room and she's like, here's everyone. Sweet. Hard for her to get there though because she's got a lot of trauma. Which I think is not only a super cool idea and super cool story, but it also makes Wanda pretty important and powerful overall. Considering without her, we actually wouldn't get to have all the mutants that we lost prior to mind backups being a thing with Cerebro. Because we didn't have backups. We were like, we don't got those. They're not on file. These people are lost forever. But only because we have Wanda do we get those back. Pretty sweet. Number 1, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is literally just coming off of being an all-powerful, all-seeing god pre-future state, where she got a glimpse into a version of the future. Enter future state. A future that we were told was going to happen in main continuity, but now it's not really happening because Dark Crisis is what's happening. You dig? Wonder Woman gave up her life to save the universe and all realities, and as a result kind of became a cosmic godlike entity. Of course, that was only for a time in her life, or I guess her afterlife. She's now back to the living world and will be returning to her regular but super powerful superhero self. Or she might possibly be the Amazon to die in Trial of the Amazons, where one important Amazon will be lost to us, although it seems more likely that she'll just be dying as part of Dark Crisis, because that's also supposed to happen. Otherwise, it might be one too many deaths for Diana to have happened so recently. I feel like 3 deaths in recent comics maybe is a little much. 2 deaths, however, 2 deaths where one of them you became like an all-powerful like god-like being, that I can take. I'll accept that. Because she didn't really die, she just kind of like transcended, but it's kind of a form of death.
Number 10. Zom. When Umar, the sister of Dormammu, invaded Earth and Doctor Strange could not defeat her, he needed some way to put her down. The Ancient One told Doctor Strange about the interdimensional being known as Zom. Zom easily defeated Umar, but being free and not wanting to go back, he turns on Doctor Strange. Zom is so powerful that there was absolutely nothing that Doctor Strange could do. Even if all the reality warping heroes and all the Avengers combined forces, they would not have been able to defeat Zom. It took the power of the Living Tribunal, the judge of the multiverse, who had not even been seen in Marvel Comics before this point, to whisk him away. And then, the Tribunal scolded Doctor Strange for summoning a being who could literally wipe out the multiverse. Zom has no other goal than to completely annihilate and destroy everything. ever. Zom is one of the most powerful mystical entities in the entire Marvel universe, and the Living Tribunal is the only person who has been shown to stop him. But we haven't seen much of him at all, which is why I put him at number 10. Number 9. The Batman Who Laughs. He's relatively new to comics, but he is nonetheless an exceedingly powerful character. He hails from Earth -22, where Batman kills the Joker, releasing a concentrated form of Joker toxin that turns Bruce into a Batman-Joker hybrid, with all the intelligence and athleticism mixed with the insanity and psychosis of the Joker. So how is he beyond Omega level? Because of the resources and mind he possesses. He has a book on how to destroy the multiverse, as well as a real-world comic book that lays out the structure of the universe. He has a pack of metal cards that can warp reality. His visor allows him to see the dark multiverse as well as people's fears and dark desires, which he can then manipulate. He can recruit minions to his cause like his Robins, and can turn people to his side with his Joker toxin. People like Shazam, as an example. He has killed Superman, Martian Manhunter, The Flash, Plastic Man, and Wonder Woman on his Earth. It's essentially what would happen if Batman was evil and had prep time. The answer is part of one of the best comic stories in recent years. And I'm not sorry, I always talk about him. Number 8. Dormammu. Dormammu is one of a race of extra-dimensional energy beings called the Faltine. Him and his sister, Umar, are both mutants of the species, who seek to consume matter instead of energy, which is a big no-no. And, along with killing their pops, it caused them to be banished. They both traveled to the Dark Dimension, and eventually, Dormammu took it over. Dormammu is the prime enemy of the Vishanti. They're the gods who give the Sorcerer Supreme his power, and it's stated by Odin that this guy is his equal in power. He's more powerful than even the greatest sorcerers, including Doctor Strange and the Ancient One, and he can banish anyone from his domain, the Dark Dimension. But he usually fights them for a bit of sport, you know? He also has super strength, astral projection, matter transmutation, interdimensional teleportation, flight, he can change his appearance and size, he can control the elements, time travel, and project and absorb energy. He's also immortal and has a regenerative healing factor, which seems kinda useless if you're immortal, but hey, I just work here. Hey, it's me. Just a regular dude. No Omega level powers, but you know what? I don't need it. I thrive off the support you guys show when you like and subscribe to this channel. So thanks for that, you beautiful, beautiful people. We appreciate you. Number 7. Shumagorath. Shumagorath is one of the greatest of the leaders of the Old Ones, also known as the Many-Angled Ones. Think like Lovecraftian old gods, and that's basically the Old Ones. Shumagorath is the ruler of hundreds of dimensions, and is said to be older than the universe itself. He has many, many mystical powers, including the ability to communicate and control others across dimensions, create mystical energy blasts from his eye and his tentacles, and can transmute things on a planetary scale. He can destroy multiple galaxies with his aura pressure ability, and can control realities by using his tentacles to create a ball of energy that he launches at the reality. They first fully premiered in Marvel Premiere Volume 1, Number 10. In the comic, Shumagorath ends up using the mind of the Ancient One, Doctor Strange's mentor, as a portal to the dimension of Earth. Doctor Strange goes into the Ancient One's mind to battle the defenses of Shumagorath and fight his way into his realm, only to realize that the only way to win is to actually kill the Ancient One. He's forced to do it, and it leads to him becoming the Sorcerer Supreme for the first time. Number 6. Mad Jim Jaspers. When Captain Britain is sent to Earth 238, where there are no heroes of any kind, what we come to learn is that a guy named Mad Jim Jaspers is the Prime Minister of England, and he's created a cyborg called the Fury that can adapt to anything to destroy all the superpowered beings on this Earth. But that's not Jim's power. See, we are being delivered this information from inside of a teapot helicopter that is immensely bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside, with the room growing and characters appearing that are dead or that resemble Alice in Wonderland characters. That's because Mad Jim Jaspers has the ability to warp reality. When Earth 238's reality is completely destroyed, we're eventually introduced to an Earth 616 reality, Mad Jim Jaspers, who is way more powerful than his 238 counterpart. When Captain Britain pays him a visit, Jim uses his powers to make Captain Britain believe he was dreaming and that he has just woken up out of a coma. He then gets frustrated and wipes this entire reality clean to start fresh. He is eventually destroyed by the Fury cyborg that survived the 238 reality, who teleports Mad Jim to the empty 238 reality where there is no reality for Mad Jim Jaspers to warp, and the Fury cyborg kills him. It's kind of confusing. Number 5. Mr. Mxyzptlk. As a magician and jester of the king in the 5th dimension, Mr. Mxyzptlk is one of Superman's wackiest villains. His level of reality warping powers are immense, but he uses his powers primarily to have a fun time, honestly. The guy is mainly bored. When he first appeared back in the day, he altered the weight of his own body so paramedics couldn't pick him up. And he made the mayor sound like a donkey. There's a story where he makes himself look like Clark Kent and then wipes his own memory so that he forgets he isn't Clark Kent. He breaks the fourth wall, can become a character in a television show, can turn off gravity, moves forward and backwards in time, is revived if he dies, and has interacted with the writers of the stories. His powers are only ever limited by his own imagination. Luckily, he isn't truly evil. He just likes to play around. But what if he was evil? Number 4. Emperor Joker. The Joker isn't beyond Omega level. He isn't even Omega level. He doesn't have any powers at all, actually. But when he tricks Mr. Mxyzptlk, the last guy on this list, into granting Joker 99.99% of his power, he definitely becomes one hell of a powerful character. He warped reality within 69 seconds into a place of his own design. He kept himself entertained by killing people over and over again, specifically Bruce Wayne, Batman, who he would torture and murder and revive over and over. He turned Superman into a dog for a time and put him in a time loop where he is constantly breaking out of Arkham Asylum. He ate the entire population of China's skulls out of a takeout box. He is nearly omnipotent and omniscient. He can change anything he wants in time and space, and his madness is at a level beyond anything we've seen before this. He ends up destroying this universe because of his misuse of power, but he can just rebuild it. You should read this story. Number 3. Chaos King. This guy is another character who hasn't been around for too long. He first appeared in 2006 and is referred to as the Japanese god of chaos, who subdued the pantheon of Japanese gods and decided to go after the Greek gods next. He has the ability to instantly transport armies wherever he wants. Armies that are made out of those that he's already killed. He even mortally wounded Zeus before being killed and eventually resurrecting himself. Chaos King thrived in the void before the Marvel multiverse was even created, and he and Eternity are basically of the same level. Eternity representing everything in the universe, and Chaos King representing nothing. During the Chaos War event, he kills Egyptian gods, Celtic gods, Shi'ar gods, gods of Zenlar, and he goes to the dream dimension and kills Nightmare. This guy even goes into hell and destroys Mephisto, as well as casting Mistress Death out of hell. The embodiment of death ran away from this guy. God Hercules, Galactus, and the Silver Surfer couldn't defeat him until Hercules used all of his strength to punch the Chaos King into a dimension of nothingness after he has destroyed 98.76% of the multiverse. Yeah, he's kinda nuts. Number 2, the Beyonders. The Beyonders come from a dimension outside the Marvel multiverse. Omnipotent, all-powerful, can create and destroy life, create planets and stars. They created the Molecule Man in every universe in order to destroy them all and blow up the whole multiverse just to see what would happen. They have killed celestials and cosmic entities of every universe, even the living tribunal who was supposed to maintain balance in the multiverse. By just 3 of them, there is nothing that they can't defeat, save for the one above all, who is basically the creator of everything. Their displays of power are absolutely above almost any one character in the Marvel universe. They're the reason the whole Incursions event happened. They have gone to battle with Thor and Hyperion, who held their own for a fair amount of time before being defeated, and that is the only reason the Beyonders aren't at the number 1 spot. Number 1, Marquis of Death. It's absolutely stupid how powerful this character is. Basically, there's this mutant, Clyde, who was taken to an asylum and wasn't allowed to have his comics. This resulted in him using his mutant powers to bring villains from a superhero reality into this reality. Eventually, the heroes of that reality show up and they win, and they end up bringing Clyde back to their universe to help him. Clyde eventually kills all the villains in that universe with a wave of his hand and spends 1 billion years learning how to manipulate space and time. Fast forward to after the events of Dark Reign, Dr. Doom's master shows up. It's Clyde! but he's much different. Disappointed with Doom's progress on this Earth, the Marquis of Death and Doom start a fight that lasts 6 weeks, ending with Dr. Doom winning and encasing the Marquis and his apprentice in an Omega box. Just kidding, it's actually been 6 seconds, and the Marquis of Death warped Doom's reality, making him think all that just happened. He then turns Doom's heart to stone, turns his blood into acid, and then sends Doom 65 million years back in time. He does way more bonker things than just that, but I can't cover it all. Read the story, you will not be disappointed.
Number 10, Stargirl. Stargirl is Courtney Whitmore, and while she herself isn't superpowered, she does wield an immensely powerful staff that grants her a ton of power. The staff is known as the Cosmic Staff, and before was wielded by Jack Knight. It also has sometimes been known as the Cosmic Rod. The device itself has tons of powers and abilities and was initially created by Ted Knight, the original Starman. While you might think that removing the staff from Stargirl would work in defeating her if, all of her power is just in this one item, the rod itself can become attuned to users who then use it and summon it with mental commands. At present, it is attuned and bonded to Stargirl, so good luck trying to defeat her, because if you separate her from it, she'll just summon it right back. Powers include gravity and magnetic manipulation, energy projection and absorption, the ability to create energy constructs, force fields, potentially bolster strength, and more.
Number 9, Hero Kala. When the Hulk was banished from Earth by the Illuminati during Planet Hulk, he crash-landed on the planet Sakaar, which is where the Hulk met his second wife, Khaira. Although Khaira appeared to pass away in the destruction of Sakaar, she actually gave birth to Bruce/Hulk's first children, Scar and Hero Kala. Now, a lot of people are aware of Scar, and he even had an appearance in the MCU, although he looks nothing like he should. But Hero Kala seems to be often overlooked. While Scar looks like his dad, Hero Kala takes more after his shadow child mother in more ways than one. Other than being pale, bald, and rather skinny looking, Kala inherited the ancient old power after the destruction of Sakaar. But learning that the old power was corrupt, he just creates the new power by combining the old power with the power cosmic, fueled by hate for Galactus. With this power, Hero Kala has insane levels of durability. He's been able to bestow the power on others, mutating them. He could create force fields capable of taking on a blast from Galactus himself. He had precognitive visions, he could create energy blasts powerful enough to destroy planets and turn into stone, he's incinerated fools, made people's heads explode, he can fly, control tectonic plates, move planets and pull them out of their orbit, and yeah, he's kind of off the chain. I don't know.
Number 8, Impulse. Bart Allen has been more associated with the Kid Flash name than the main Flash name, though he did at one point dress as the Flash in order to buy time for Wally. Unfortunately, his very brief time impersonating the Flash wearing the costume was cut very short at this time, as Bart was without his powers and ended up being killed. Of course, this was still a very moving story involving Bart, who's probably the most beloved member of the Flash family, with really only Iris and Jay West offering, I would say, any potential competition. These two are also a couple of super lovable cuties as Wally and Linda's kids. Also, despite being young, Bart Allen is still super powerful when he is powered. He can time travel, hop dimensions, and has been shown to be fast enough to fend off and even beat Godspeed, and he can phase. Bart Allen would end up taking up the speedster hero mantle of Impulse.
Number 7, Scarlet Witch. The Scarlet Witch, aka Wanda Maximoff, is believed to be the daughter of the mutant supervillain and occasional reluctant anti-hero, sort of not really, known as Magneto. Possessing a unique set of reality-altering powers, Wanda is one of the most complex and powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. Her abilities center on chaos magic, enabling her to manipulate probability and reality itself. She can create and alter matter, launch energy blasts, and even reshape the fabric of reality. However, her powers often come at a cost, as they are intrinsically tied to her emotional state. This has led to moments of instability and significant events in Marvel's history, such as the infamous House of M storyline, where she altered reality on a global scale. Now, while she is not officially recognized as an Omega level threat, her actions show that she can indeed reach those levels. Despite her familial ties to Magneto, Scarlet Witch has displayed various roles, from a member of the Avengers to a pivotal figure in the mutant affairs on the good and the bad sides of things.
Number 6, Billy Batson. Shazam, or Captain Marvel as some still refer to him as today, is one of the most powerful heroes DC has, despite actually being a kid posing as a grown-up magical man and hero. Shazam's powers come from the gods, the limitless wisdom of Solomon, strength of Hercules, stamina of Atlas, power and omnipotence of Zeus, courage of Achilles, and speed of Mercury. There's really no limit, or there really shouldn't be, to what he can do.
Number 5. Proteus. The son of Moira McTaggart and her crummy husband Kevin McTaggart was an Omega-level mutant with psionic reality warping powers, but also a pretty uncontrollable thirst for energy, which made him a danger to everyone around him. Moira was forced to enclose her son in a special status room that would sustain his energy consumption, but when this room was damaged, his body became burnt out and he needed to possess other human host bodies in order to survive. But these hosts could not contain his energy, so he would burn right through them, leaving whole swaths of bodies in his wake as he moved from one to the next until he managed to possess his own father, Joe. Now, of all the things for an insanely powerful reality warping mutant to be weak to, Proteus here had an inexplicable weakness to metal. After burning out Joe's body and being vulnerable in a form of pure energy, Colossus of the X-Men turned into his metal form and seemingly with one punch disrupts Proteus's energy form, causing a massive light show and scattering Proteus's energy all over Scotland. But Proteus would go on to return, possessing Blindfold, Destiny, Nightcrawler, Psylocke, Husk, and Trance in one fight, and way later he would eventually become a member of the Five, ensuring the survival of the mutant race. So he's kinda good in that regard, I guess.
Number 4. Naomi. Naomi is probably one of the most powerful of the younger heroes we've seen. Her powers are on the level of heavy hitters such as one of DC's main heroes, Superman. In fact, while transformed into her superhero mode, Naomi's power set is pretty similar, except for one very important and unique element to her. Unlike Superman, whose weakness is magic, Naomi actually bolsters and boosts magic around her. Her powers allow her to generate energy, which she can use in a few different ways. In combat, using it to blast opponents or to give her a physical boost. Alternatively, she can use that same energy to boost magic and magical beings around her, which honestly is pretty neat. However, as Naomi is still young, despite her potential, she still has some learning to do when it comes to her power set and how to best utilize and control it. Still, when she is fully in her power, when that happens, she will be one of the most OP superheroes at DC Comics, I imagine.
Number 3. Legion. David Haller was living in Paris with his mother when her home was suddenly invaded by an assassination team. Like that happens all the time. They took out David's stepfather before his eyes, which kicked off his latent psionic powers, which he then used to incinerate the brains of the assassins. However, as he did so, he also made telepathic contact with each of his victims, thus experiencing their thoughts and emotions as they passed away, which deeply affected David, forcing him into a catatonic state. At the same time, the consciousness of the leader of the assassins, Jamail Karami, was absorbed and merged into David's mind. All this happening had somehow splintered David's personality into multiple alters, with each of these alters controlling a different psionic power. Because of this, Legion is an Omega level mutant able to create spontaneous mutations of different kinds, including reality warping, that are accompanied by new personas or alters to govern each one of these new mutations. The whole reason David even has an X gene, though, is likely due to the fact that he is the son of the father figures to mutants everywhere, Professor Charles Xavier.
Number 2. Franklin Richards, or at the very least an alternate Franklin Richards. Franklin Richards of Earth 616 has had his mutant status removed and has been significantly nerfed in recent years, and while I'm personally not convinced this will end up staying a permanent change to his character, I don't think it's been undone yet, and it's been a while, so I might be waiting for some time. It would seem that Franklin had been using his powers to alter his genetics to appear as a mutant, but in reality was not, as Lady Gaga would say, born this way. This was not intentionally done, but apparently was subconsciously done, and when his powers started to go all wonky, eventually his unintentional genetic manipulation came to an end, exposing him basically as a fake mutant. A future Franklin Richards of Earth 10774, however, seemed to have remained a mutant, either permanently one in this alt future, or simply not exposing that he had unintentionally faked his mutant genes. It was the Mad Celestials in this future that literally identified him as beyond Omega level.
And in at number 1 today, it's Hyperstorm. Hyperstorm, or as he is known in his civilian identity, Jonathan Richards, is a character I think a lot of people forget about. His heritage finds its roots in two of Marvel's most prominent and powerful bloodlines. His father is Franklin Richards, the reality warping son of Reed Richards and Sue Storm of the Fantastic Four that Amanda just talked about. But his mother is Rachel Summers, an incredibly powerful telekinetic and telepathic mutant who is the daughter of Scott Summers and Jean Grey of the X-Men. With these two incredibly powerful and influential family trees fueling Jonathan, he became one of the most powerful beings we have ever seen in Marvel Comics. He is essentially infinite psionic power drawn from hyperspace, allowing him control over the four fundamental forces of the universe, those being the strong and weak nuclear forces, electromagnetism, and gravitation. Theoretically, this means he can restructure, create, manipulate, and/or destroy matter from a cosmic scale down to a subatomic level. He can create electromagnetic fields and electrical currents, make matter radioactive, manipulate gravity, cause nuclear detonations, emit enormous energy blasts, and honestly, accomplish nearly anything he sets his mind to. And then, he also has telepathy, telekinesis, and can heal from pretty much anything. And he has used these powers to conquer all of the inhabited worlds of the explored space of the alternate reality of Earth 967. And he's even messed with his ancestors in the Fantastic Four of the past.
Number 10. Spectre. Although Omega level is typically a term used to describe the power levels of Marvel's mutants, today we are applying it to the whole realm of heroes. Even some of our favorite insanely powerful ones from the distinguished competition, DC. See what we did? That's what we say over at Marvel. I said that like I work for Marvel. I definitely do not. I wish. Marvel, call me. Spectre is super powerful with or without a human host. Of course, he is also at a god level, a hero who is based in the spiritual and supernatural realm. The Spectre is believed to be a fallen angel who became penitent, seeking forgiveness from the Presence, basically DC's version of God. The Presence decided to grant him such and made him the Spirit of Vengeance, one who would deliver justice and punish those who had sinned. When bonded to a host, that person gets access to many different powers that put whosoever is the Spectre at an omnipotent level. At his most powerful, he can also see the outcome of many things in the universe. In Kingdom Come, he used this power to put a stop to Superman's rampage, and he was also powerful enough to defeat Parallax as well. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd and you love when we talk about powerhouses, be sure to check out our most powerful playlist. Number 9. Photon. Monica has been through so many different costumes and identities since she was first introduced, but through all of the different names she has worn, she has remained one of the most powerful heroes around, thanks to energy manipulation and energy transformation powers. In case you didn't know, Monica can change herself into any form of energy, and while in her energy form, absorb energy as well. Before Monica was Photon or Spectrum, she was Captain Marvel. In fact, she was actually Captain Marvel not only before Carol Danvers was, but before Janice Vell, Mar-Vell's son, even was. Monica only gave up the mantle of Captain Marvel, the name we originally knew her under, because Janice Vell wanted to take over that mantle. And that isn't the only mantle Janice Vell took up that originally belonged to Monica. He's also gone by the name of Photon as well. Yeah, Janice Vell just loves taking Monica's names, I don't know. Number 8. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was recently an all-powerful, all-knowing god. However, she ultimately ended up returning to the land of the living. But still, for a time, she was definitely more than Omega, which is why I got her here. And I'd argue there have been other moments in Diana's history when she has been beyond Omega as well. When she became a god following the events of Dark Knight's death metal, Wonder Woman gave up her life to save the universe and all realities, and as a result became one of the most powerful cosmic entities in pretty much all of the DC multiverse. Of course, that was only a time in her life, or I guess her afterlife. Currently though, she is back to the world of the living and is returning to her regular but super powerful superhero self. Number 7. Atom Eve. Atom Eve is probably one of the most powerful superheroes that I've fallen head over heels in love with the more that I come to know her. She hails from Image Comics, specifically Invincible and its comic book universe. She is the main love interest and partner in romance and in business to the main character of the Invincible series, Mark Grayson, aka the superhero superhero Invincible. But she's also so much more than that. Atom Eve is Samantha Eve Wilkins, a powerhouse in her own right who I might argue is actually more powerful in a lot of ways than even Mark, who is pretty much off the charts in terms of power levels himself. Atom Eve can manipulate matter on a molecular level, effectively allowing her to alter reality, albeit on a smaller scale than some of the others that are on this list. Number 6. Dr. Fate. Known for being the most powerful magic user in the main continuity of DC Comics, we have Dr. Fate. At least that is as far as heroes and I suppose mortals go. However, it should be noted that Dr. Fate has sort of immortality too as well, granted to him by the magics of his powerful artifacts that belonged to the Lord of Order, Naboo, the original Dr. Fate. So he is anything but your average mortal. Kent Nelson spent a long time as Dr. Fate, but now we have a new Dr. Fate as well, his grandnephew Khalid Nazur. Even when Khalid just took up the helmet, he showed a natural knack for wielding his power, handily defeating a demon. Dr. Fate can also travel the multiverse and even possibly exist across multiple planes of existence at once. Number 5. Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is one of the most powerful magic users in all of Marvel Comics. To contrast Dr. Fate. Who is Doctor Strange? He's the Sorcerer Supreme in the Marvel Universe. Or he usually is anyways. He was dead recently for a little while, but even while dead he was quite powerful, contacting another version of himself and getting his self to help solve his own murder in Death of Doctor Strange. A past version of Strange was summoned to get sleuthing, and through this, Stephen was even able to return to the land of the living temporarily. Ultimately, he knew that doing so would come with too great of a cost if he were to actually remain alive, kind of breaks the natural order of things, and fight against the inevitability of his own death. So he only came back temporarily to defeat some baddies and then he kind of like faded away once more. Although he is back permanently, I believe, again now. So I guess it's all in how and when you come back from the dead in terms of it being magically approved. This resurrection is magically stamp approved. Number 4. Squirrel Girl. Despite no longer being fully considered unbeatable, thanks to a defeat that is implied to have happened off-panel in the 2018 volume of Fantastic Four in issue number 43, Squirrel Girl still has defeated a lot of menacing and often unbeatable villains in Marvel Comics, and has also helped to reform some major villains as well. In fact, this is kind of Doreen's whole secret to success when it comes to beating her foes. She usually does so by simply befriending them and encouraging them to just like do and be better. Well, I don't know if this would work everywhere throughout every universe or every multiverse that exists, you still have to admit that her list of victories is pretty impressive. Doreen is inspirational and honestly it's contagious. And while she has lost once at this point, I still think her track record of beating almost all villains she runs into makes her one of the most powerful characters that we've probably ever seen. While her mutant powers might not be at an Omega level or above, her friendship abilities most certainly should grant her that status alone. I mean, almost no one can seemingly stand against her, so. Number 3. Ex Nihilo. If we get Ex Nihilo in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it will probably mean the coming of the Builders, which would be a whole world-destroying event. So if we get this powerhouse, we know we're in trouble. Worlds destroying, actually, since they basically obliterated multiple planets in order to reset the universe and start again because of what they had learned about the coming incursions. Ex Nihilo was known as one of the Gardeners. He was created by the Builders, as were all of the Gardeners. Their goal was to perfect species on planets and create life, which sounds great, until you realize the level of power needed to do such a thing. Ex Nihilo could both create matter and manipulate time. We don't know the full extent of his power level in this regard, but I would assume both would be on a planetary scale at least, just based on the purpose of why his character was created. Number 2. Vulcan. Vulcan is Gabriel Summers, the youngest Summers brother who had a really messed up childhood. Slash, honestly, kind of no childhood at all, really. It was a rough time. And who happens to be the most powerful of all the Summers family kids. Scott has his optic blasts, and Alex has his energy conversion. But Gabriel has what is possibly a limitless amount of energy manipulation and absorption. He's off the charts. He can take in tons of raw energy and just hold it within himself to use, or channel that energy elsewhere, redirecting it, which is honestly pretty crazy. Vulcan has been classified many times as beyond Omega level in the comics by various people, including Rachel Summers. And I think his niece herself would know a thing or two about power classifications that are off the charts, considering she is also an insanely powerful mutant in her own right. Number 1. Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan can warp reality as he sees fit. It doesn't get more Omega than that, honestly, especially when you consider the level of control that Dr. Manhattan has exhibited when utilizing his reality warping powers, and in some cases the level of restraint. I mean, when you can just fix all of reality in like the blink of an eye, it takes an element of control to simply not do that. It also takes a level of knowledge to not mess with the timeline, at least not too much. There was New 52, which was later connected to Dr. Manhattan, but only really in retrospect. In essence, he's one of the major causes of the New 52, at least as far as the reasoning goes within the canon. Dr. Manhattan might be a little too ambivalent for some to consider him a hero, but overall I'd say he is a force mostly for good. He just usually doesn't get involved because he's so OP, and this means that he kind of sees other beings and their issues as generally being, well, kind of beneath him. Yeah, not a very typical heroic mentality, but Dr. Manhattan also isn't your typical hero, being that he originated from Alan Moore's Watchmen.
Coming in at number 10 today, it's Monarch. Born into the esteemed Braddock family, James Jamie Braddock Jr. didn't manifest his reality warping abilities until adulthood. His extraordinary powers hinge on the manipulation of quantum strings, granting him dominion over the very fabric of reality. Operating under the moniker Monarch, he wields a range of abilities from teleportation to nightmarish bodily distortions and even the ability to sow utter chaos throughout the cosmos. As his powers elevated, Jamie Braddock evolved into one of Earth's most perilous and erratic mutants. Ultimately though, Monarch met his demise at the hands of his own siblings, Captain Britain and Psylocke, who sought out to safeguard the multiverse from the dangerous power that he wielded. But despite the danger, the Five on Krakoa successfully resurrected him, and he harnessed his capabilities to ascend as the ruler of Avalon, solidifying his status as a true monarch within the realm of Otherworld.
If you're enjoying this video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing the notification bell. Adam and I really appreciate it. At number 9 is Vulcan. Vulcan, also known as Gabriel Summers, emerges from the tangled web of mutant abilities as a formidable figure overshadowing even his renowned brothers, Scott and Alex. His tumultuous upbringing, marked by neglect and isolation, set the stage for his unparalleled powers. Unlike Scott's optic blast or Alex's energy conversion, Gabriel possesses the astounding gift of energy manipulation and absorption, seemingly boundless in its potential. Now, what sets Vulcan apart is his ability to voraciously absorb vast quantities of raw energy and retain it within himself like a cosmic battery. This stored energy can be wielded at his discretion or redirected as needed, making him a walking powerhouse. In the annals of mutant classification, Vulcan has transcended traditional boundaries, earning the elusive title of Beyond Mutant Level from discerning minds like Rachel Summers. The Summers bloodline, it seems, has birthed not one, but two extraordinary mutants, with Rachel herself as a testament to the family's unparalleled genetic legacy.
Number 8, Mr. M. Mr. M, also known as Absalom Mercator, is one of Marvel Comics' most powerful mutants. His mutant ability grants him control over matter on a molecular level, allowing him to manipulate and reshape materials, elements, and even living organisms with a mere thought. But unlike other matter manipulators, he can only manipulate already existing matter. This differentiates him as being a matter manipulator, but not a reality manipulator. Don't think that makes him a pushover though, not by a long shot. He has used his abilities to repair machinery, become intangible, heal injuries of both himself and others, remove or augment superhuman qualities, and even create and evolve lesser life forms. He can also manipulate energy, which has allowed him to generate lightning, fire, explosions, and the ability to create force fields. He basically became a savior figure for a group of mutants before being taken out, but even then he seemed to revive himself by becoming a bunch of butterflies, and he was revealed to be alive still later, charged with protecting the Siege Perilous in a part of Otherworld which he now controls.
At number 7 is Exodus. Bennett du Paris was born in the 12th century, having always felt isolated from his peers, probably because he was about to become one of the most powerful mutants the world will ever see. His journey from a lost crusader in the Palestine to becoming one of Apocalypse's pawns and eventually a zealous follower of Magneto paints a tale of ever-evolving power dynamics. But what sets Exodus apart from the legion of comic book villains is his astounding psychic abilities. He ranks among Earth's most formidable psychics, wielding an arsenal of telekinetic and telepathic powers. Now, while the origin of his additional abilities remains shrouded in mystery, those being teleportation and energy blasts, it's clear that his immense telekinetic and telepathic prowess fuels them somehow. One of his most astonishing feats involved encapsulating all of Genosha within a psionic dome. This dome not only imprisoned heroes and cut off communication from the outside, but he could also manipulate the dome's size, shrinking it to crush entire buildings. But what's even more impressive was the fact that he was able to maintain the dome's integrity while also psionically influencing the island's populace, keeping powerful telepaths like Jean Grey and the rest under his control, while also battling legions of superheroes at the same time. Although this display of absolute power is probably an outlier, it highlights Exodus's sheer power and potential, making him a formidable antagonist lurking far beyond Omega level capabilities.
Number 6, Magneto. Magneto boasts a storied history in the Marvel Universe, largely characterized by his antagonistic role as the foremost rival of Professor Charles Xavier. What makes his perspective particularly intriguing is the juxtaposition of his past as a child of a Jewish family during World War II and his subsequent belief in mutant supremacy over regular humans, even after enduring years of persecution. This worldview has driven him to lead the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and various other factions in opposition to the X-Men and Earth's other heroes. Magneto's reputation as a formidable force precedes him. His unparalleled power and extensive experience position him as an adversary few dare to challenge. Remarkably, to prove his power, there was a moment when he had his heart torn out by the villain Uranos. Yet, he somehow defied death by using his powers to maintain the circulation of his own body. This incident kind of proves the sheer magnitude of his abilities and his enduring legacy in the Marvel Universe.
At number 5 is Proteus. Proteus is the lunatic son of Moria McTaggart, wielding a reality warping power that exceeds the boundaries of comprehension. His ability to manipulate the fabric of existence is a cosmic anomaly, but it comes at a grave cost. See, Proteus is forced to leap from one fragile vessel to another, for his extraordinary energy consumption quickly decays living flesh. But it's a two-sided coin, because as a psychokinetic being, Proteus may be temporarily defeated, but his essence endures, an ethereal psychokinetic specter lurking in the shadows. Operating on the principle of sight and concentration, Proteus reshapes reality itself, albeit momentarily. So, for example, he may transform a building into a swarm of bees, but the moment his focus wavers, say to warp some other aspect of reality, like when he turns Cyclops' laser beams into popcorn, the bees revert back to their original form, the building. Yet make no mistake, this mutant stands atop the Omega level hierarchy. He once vanquished Jean Grey, even while she wielded the formidable Phoenix Force.
Number 4, Matthew Malloy. Matthew Malloy is a sad character. Coming from Earth 14923, his mutant abilities manifested thanks to an extremely traumatic event involving his wife and some Skrulls, and they quickly went out of his control. He essentially has the ability to tap into an extra-dimensional power source that allows him to warp reality to his will. With that power, he's displayed telekinesis, telepathy, catatonic explosions, matter manipulation, teleportation, and even self-resurrection. As his powers manifested, an eruption of energy followed, destroying everything around him, which only made things worse for him. After that incident, Matthew stood in a massive sinkhole he created when he was then approached by a robotic drone with a holographic image of director Maria Hill, who questioned him if he was responsible for the disaster and if he was a mutant. He was not in a good emotional state and was pretty uncontrollable, and so she sent a strike team to his location only for him to uncontrollably release his power and obliterate everyone in the area again. After this, S.H.I.E.L.D. sent an airstrike that obliterated him and the X-Men, Cyclops, and Magic, but using his powers, he returned back to life and teleported to the Jean Grey school, where he took the life of Emma Frost. It was not until Tempest used her powers to go back in time and, with the help of Professor X of the past, managed to make Malloy's parents never meet, causing him to never have been born in the first place and cease to exist in the present, saving Cyclops, Magic, and Emma Frost.
At number 3 is Mad Jim Jaspers. Sir Sir James Jaspers was the head of the Conservative Party in Britain and ran an anti-superhuman platform, and after winning the election in a landslide, Jaspers served as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom before it was revealed that he himself was a mutant, and one with vast reality warping powers at that. Going mad with power, Jaspers came into conflict with Captain Britain and Fury, who managed to defeat him by shunting him off to a completely barren universe in which there was no matter or energy for him to control. But this wasn't really a big deal for Jimmy because after all of causality is thrown into chaos, he comes back to life. Not only that, but Jasper claims that he's solely responsible for the creation of everything in his universe, including living beings. So to say that this guy is beyond Omega level is an understatement. He's more like a deity than anything else.
And at number 2 today is Strife. Strife's origin is a complex tale involving cloning, Mother Ascani, and the influence of the infamous Apocalypse. He's essentially a clone of Nathan Summers, who's better known as Cable. However, what sets Strife apart is that he represents what Cable might have become if not for the constant battle against the techno-organic virus that plagues him. Unlike Cable, Strife doesn't face this limitation. Much like his counterpart, Strife is classified as an Omega level telekinetic, and he confidently lays claim to that title. In fact, he's considered the third most powerful of his kind on Earth. His telepathic powers rival that of other top-tier telepaths, boasting both potent defensive and offensive telekinetic abilities. To add to his arsenal, he's been cybernetically enhanced by Apocalypse, granting him superhuman physical attributes. Strife is an imposing and relentless villain, a force that should just never be underestimated.
And coming in at number 1 is Scarlet Witch. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, is a marvel of Marvel. She started off as a villain with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but soon switched sides to become one of the Avengers' most iconic members. Her power is all about bending probability and reality. Originally thought to be her mutant power, it's actually innately magical thanks to her lineage and the High Evolutionaries meddling. Alongside her twin brother Quicksilver, Wanda's powers initially manifested as hex bolts, volatile bolts of chaotic energy that alter the very fabric of probability. Initially, Wanda didn't have full control over the power and could accidentally hex objects with hand gestures like a magical Italian. Oh. She eventually gains more control through practice, but her abilities aren't just limited to hex bolts. She's a bona fide witch wielding chaos magic. With training from Agatha Harkness, she can control elements and organic matter. This means that she can manipulate not just probability, but the very fabric of existence. When we talk about villains with beyond Omega level powers, Wanda Maximoff is right up there. Her ability to reshape reality and command chaos makes her a cosmic force to be reckoned with.